Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build will be an updated version of the Regifter, but this one will be cold based. Now the main reason for going cold based is because the Shattered Lance Swords saw a huge change in 8.2 where they went from having about 53 melee physical damage to now they only have 14 melee physical damage but up to 85 added cold damage. So while the skills won't have the cold tag, most of the damage we do will be cold based, but most of that we'll get just from the weapons. Because we are now stacking flat cold damage, we're not going to run two of the swords because we also want to be able to get to 100% crit chance. So we will be running a Eulogy of Blood, which comes with up to 5% melee base crit chance on the implicit for the weapon, as well as giving added flat cold damage on the weapon itself in the affixes. Both of these together mean that this build will do mostly cold damage, but you will also be able to achieve 100% critical strike chance. This build on defense will also be categorized as health regeneration and some leech. You'll be regenerating up to 1,000 health per second, and if you find some exalted items, or if you really get good rolls or even min-max and get full tier 20 gear, you'll have even more than that. In this build, we're not running anything that high. If you've played any of the Regifter builds, you know that the Regifter is a very tanky boy, and even dual wielding with the 3% nerf of more damage that you'll take in 8.2, you can still face tank the bosses, stand there in retaliation mode, and be able to not worry about dying. So let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Rive, Smite, Lunge, Holy Aura, and Sigils of Hope. For Rive, we have this set up for base crit chance, for kill threshold, for attack speed, and of course for as much more damage as possible. So we've got 4 points in Flurry. This gives the first and second strike 32% increased attack speed. This will allow you to get to the third strike even faster, which will be our most damaging hit. We got 4 points in Concentration. This gives the skill 4% more base crit chance. This won't be reflected in the character sheet, but you will have much higher crit chance than what shows there. We got 2 points in Sever, which gives Ignite chance to the first strike, 1 point in Twisting Fangs, which gives Ignite chance to the second hit, and then 3 points in Savagery so that you do 45% more hit damage against an enemy that is ignited. We've got 2 points in Outburst for third strike area, 1 point in Overwhelm so the third strike hits 50% harder. 3 points in Brutality makes the third strike hit another 60% harder, and then 1 point in Coup de Grace so that the third strike has a 15% kill threshold, which really helps finish off the bosses like Orbis and on the quest timelines. For Smite, we have this set up for the added fire damage for the attack speed, and that's really it. It does also hit the targets and do a little bit of lightning damage, but DPS for this is not what we're after. We got 1 point in Holy Wave, 5 points in Righteous Fury. This gives 15 added melee fire damage for 4 seconds after you cast it. 5 points in Righteous Flurry gives you 50% increased attack speed for 4 seconds after you cast it. So you just want to make sure you manually cast it, whenever you need it. So try for every 4 seconds unless you're just not in the fight. 2 points in Blinding Flash, 1 point in Order of Lagon, 1 point in Unbalanced Scale, 2 points in Charged Hand, and 3 points in Wandering Bolts. For Lunge, we have this set up basically what I always call the normal way. It's going to give us 40% increased damage, it's going to give us more armor, it's going to give us a bunch of crit chance, and we'll be invulnerable while we lunge. So we got 1 point in Deadly Aim, 3 points in Tactician, 4 points in Forge On for that 100% increased armor and stun avoidance, 1 point in Unstoppable so we are invincible while we lunge, 1 point in Initiative, so you'll get an initiative buff for 4 seconds after you lunge. This will give you 40% increased damage, and with 5 points in Avenger's Charge, a total of 240% increased crit chance. We then have 4 points into the Fray, which increases the hit area of Lunge by 120%, and 1 point in Double Strike so that if there's no monsters around, you can stack an extra charge. For Holy Aura, we have this set up to give us endurance, as well as some health regen, attack speed, and some crit chance along with crit multi. We got 4 points in Vital Boon, so we get 40% more health regen when we have this on our toolbar. This is doubled when you activate it. 5 points in Shelter from the Storm gives us 25% elemental resist and 15% endurance. This is also doubled while Holy Aura is active. 2 points in Call to Arms, 4 points in Fanatism for the attack speed, 4 points in True Strike for 40% increased critical strike chance, 80% while it's active, and then 1 point in Extreme Zeal for that 5% crit multi, which doesn't do very much, but it's still better than nothing. And then for Sigils of Hope, we're using this for health regen, but it also gives us a little bit of damage. We've got 5 points in Iron Sigil, so we get 200 armor flat per sigil we have active. We'll have 4 active at all times. 5 points in Enduring Hope, increases the duration of them. 1 point in Tetragram, increases the maximum sigils from 3 to 4. 1 point in Meditation, makes it to where you get double the health regen from the sigils, but they will only affect you, not your allies, which is fine. We're not in multiplayer yet. 5 points in Empowering Sigils gives you 30% increased damage per sigil active. We'll have 4, so you'll get 120% increased damage. 1 point in Last Wish, so there's a chance to summon them on kill. And 2 points in Decree of Flame, so that you get added fire damage for every sigil active that you have. For passives, in the Sentinel base class, we got 42 points with 1 point in Overwhelm, 5 points in Counterattack, and 4 points in Banish. This is so that when you take a hit, there'll be a 30% chance to retaliate. It has a 0.2 second cooldown, so you can't just retaliate a whole bunch if you have a whole train, but 5 times a second is pretty quick, and it will do quite a bit of damage. We got 8 points in Juggernaut for the Strength, Fire, and Void Resist. We got 8 points in Fearless for the Vitality and Health Regeneration. 5 points in Armor Clad reduces the amount of damage you take from nearby enemies. 5 points in Time and Faith gives you mana and health gained every time that we use Rive. 1 point in Gladiator, which will increase the damage we take by 15%, but it will let us dual wield. And then 5 points in Blade Master gives us additional attack speed per sword or per axe that we have. It will not do it if you have 2 of the same, but if you have 1 of each, you get double the attack speed. For the Void Knight, we have 10 points. We've got 8 points in Abyssal Endurance and 2 points in World Eater. And then for the Paladin with 61 points, we've got 8 points in Conviction, 8 points in Defiance, 8 points in Valor, 1 point in Majesta Firebrand, 8 points in Rayos Strength. This isn't so much for the fire damage, it's for the strength, for all the health regen that gives us. 7 points in Holy Symbol, 8 points in Faith Armor, 1 point in Righteous Firebrand, and 12 points in Reverence of Duality. Then for items, idols, and blessings. So for the idols, there's 3 different types that we have going on. All the 1x1s that you can fit in that give you health regen, void resist, necrotic resist, poison resist. Those ones are going to be the best ones for capping out your resist, so you don't have to waste the affixes on your gear. For the 1x4s, you can only wear 2 of them now instead of 4, so we still went with the critical strike multiplier for Rive, but you only get 2 of them, so the critical strikes that you're doing, even though you have 100% uptime of them, they're just going to do a little less damage than they did last patch. And then you can also throw in a 1x2 that has increased critical strike chance. It also has increased cold damage, but I'm pretty sure since Rive doesn't have the cold tag, even though we have added melee cold damage to it, it doesn't scale with cold damage, and that's why we don't run it on any gear. It might, but I'm pretty sure since it doesn't have the tag that it does not. Then for our items, we are wearing 3 uniques. We have the Eulogy of Blood. This gives you a lot of melee physical damage. It also gives you between 2 and 5% base critical strike chance. It adds up to 40 cold damage. You'll have a 100% chance to bleed when you hit an enemy on hit. It'll increase the bleed duration. And then of course there's always a chance to be casting Rip Bloods towards nearby enemies, which isn't a big deal since we don't have the Rip Blood tree. But occasionally it'll heal you for a little extra health. Then we have the Shattered Lance set. So we got the sword, which is going to give us up to 85 melee cold damage, up to 100% increased melee cold damage, and then of course it gives us some flat health regen. Then with the relic, this completes the set, which means for every point of strength we have, we get more health regen. This also comes with up to 100% increased health regen, some flat health regen, and increased melee cold damage. And then for the Rhaegar items, basically all we're running is increased health, strength, vitality, and of course the resistances that you need to cap it. We don't really run that much increased health. We do have a little bit on the rings. We do have some increased critical strike chance, but that's about it. You don't even need tier 5 of all these stats. If you have tier 3s and tier 4s, the build is going to run really good. But the more obviously that you have, the better. If you get some exalted gear that has flat health regen, say 16, 17, 18, 19 health regen per second instead of only like 10 or 11 on your boots, on your helm, on your gloves, you're going to have a lot of health regen. With full exalted gear, we're talking just one exalted affix, for a health regen stat on all your crafted slots, you can get to 1500 plus, almost 2000 health regen, which can get a bit ridiculous, especially if you have the health regen blessing that can increase it by 200%. For blessings, I'm just going to hover over the ones I have. For the most part, these are the ones that you're going to want to go with. Like I said, you can get the health regen blessing as well. That's really going to help your regen, but we regen so much health already, there's really just no point of it in this build. You can see here it says we have 851, which is a lot. However, in game it's actually a little bit higher, and then of course when you have the sigils active, you get up to another 200%. When you have 4 sigils active, you'll have another 200% if you get the blessing from the empowered timeline. So you're talking about getting up to 1200, 1300 health regen without even tier 5s or all exalted gear, which is a little ridiculous. But that's our survivability. You'll also see we have quite a bit of armor, but we're going to jump over to the character sheet. For the character sheet, as you can see, we're sitting at almost 2000 health. We got about 950 health regen that'll get boosted by our sigils. We also don't have the blessing for health regen on this character. We have just about capped resistances. We're just a little shy on poison. We got about 50% armor just standing in place, but that'll get significantly boosted both when you lunge and when you have sigils active. And then for our damage types, you can see we got about 200% critical strike multiplier, which is normal. We don't really have any added other than the 5% from Holy Aura. And then we don't really have much in terms of any damage either. For defense, we're sitting at 49% endurance. That will be at 60% when we have Holy Aura active. Of course, that won't be 100% uptime, but it's enough to get us by. And then we also have 100% critical strike avoidance. Just to show you how high the armor gets, when we have 4 sigils active, you will see that our armor jumps up to 6,000, and then of course when we lunge, it's going to get even higher than that. We get all the way up to 73% armor, which is enough for us to survive quite well. And then of course when we have Holy Aura active, you'll notice that our health regen jumped up. We're at 1100 health regen with our 4 sigils and with Holy Aura active, which is just crazy the amount of health that you're getting per second from all of those boosts. And again, we don't even have full tier 5s of everything. We don't have max rules, and we definitely don't have any exalted gear on. You could get that to about 2000 health if you found some tier 7 flat health regen to put on your gear. Also, you can also dual weld the Shattered Lance. You'll do slightly less damage, but you can take the Eulogy of Blood off. You can throw on another Shattered Lance, which can have up to another 10 flat health regen, which will boost you up another 100 to 200 total health regeneration, so you'll jump from 1100 to about 1300, which is a lot. And then just how I play the build, I like to put Lunge on autocast, I'll put Holy Aura on autocast, and then I just make sure that I throw down a Smite so I get the attack speed boost. You want to throw your sigils out, make sure you got 4 of them. Mana's not a problem. And you can see we're doing 40 to 50k crits, and then your first and second strike are only going to do about 5 to 10k on the training dummy. Your third strike which is the majority of the damage. It's going to do the 40 to 50k strikes. And then you just have massive attack speed, and you just go around. Now remember, things you're not seeing here is you will be also retaliating, which will be throwing in extra damage. So every time you get hit, there'll be a 30% chance of that. If you have a lot of mobs on you, you're going to notice that you get extra hits going off, and it's going to increase the total damage output. This is also a tanky enough build that, especially in non-empowered content, you can literally just stand there and let the mobs kill themselves by attacking you. In empowered content, you can do it, especially in the beginning, like between 100 and 200 corruption. You can, for the most part, just face tank bosses, and you don't have to worry about a thing. It doesn't even get anywhere close to scary, even with powerful modifiers that increase their damage. But if you have nothing but damage modifiers and of the same element that the bosses are, or lots of mobs, and you're getting into that 200 plus corruption, it'll start to, you gotta start being a little bit more careful, but it's still totally viable. If you choose your mods right, you can push this thing to 400 plus corruption without any issues. I still wouldn't recommend trying to go that high with an empowered version of this, or a hardcore character of this, unless you knew that you were going to get the uniques, the Shattered Lance and all that, and had that all pre-set up to get the amount of health regeneration that actually makes it kind of work together. In solo self-found, obviously deaths don't matter. You have plenty of time to build this, farm the uniques. As the Eulogy of Blood can be hard, I'd probably go for 2 Shattered Lances to begin with. But other than that, the build works perfectly fine. It's a bit of a speedrunner because you're constantly just running through maps, letting things attack you and do damage to them as you just fly through, get to the boss, and kill the boss as fast as you can, like you see in the gameplay that I show. Alright, that's going to be it for this build guide. I hope that it was easy to follow. I hope you guys like the character. I hope you like this version of the Regifter, as it's cold. Now, while it doesn't actually have a cold skill, like I said, it is all based on cold damage. You have the melee cold damage added and the melee cold damage increased, and that's a majority of your damage. Hopefully, it would be cool to see that Rive or Vengeance get some more element tags. It would have been cool to build a fire version of it with the Ruby Fang dual axes and get all that added fire damage, but you can't convert Vengeance or Rive to fire or cold or anything other than just its normal physical type, which is a bit of a bummer, but hopefully that changes in the future. Alright, that's going to be it for me. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some gameplay, and as always, stay safe, travelers.